My name is Ava Carter. I'm 38, senior account manager at a marketing agency in Raleigh, North Carolina. I design campaigns that land big clients, the kind that keep the lights on. I always saw myself as the practical type, the one who spots red flags in contracts, who doesn't buy into fairy tale gestures. So when my husband started saying, "You're just burned out, babe. Take it easy," with that concerned look, I brushed it off as sweet. He'd step in at work, handle a call here, tweak a file there, all to help. I felt grateful, like we were a team pushing through the grind. But then my files kept changing overnight. Typos I didn't make, data shifted, presentations altered just enough to look sloppy. Clients stopped calling me directly, they'd go to him instead. "No big deal," he said. "You're exhausted. Let me handle it." My focus slipped. I'd forget meeting notes, mix up deadlines. Stress, I told myself. Age catching up. But something gnawed at me. One late night, staring at my screen, I decided to check the system logs. What I found hit like a gut punch. Access trails leading back to our home IP, edits timed when I was asleep. And there, buried in the details, hints of something deliberate. That day, everything shifted. I wasn't just tired, I was being undermined. What happened next exposed the truth and shattered our life. What do you think? Would you have dug into those logs sooner? Or trusted longer? Share your take in the comments, I'd love to hear it. And if these twists grip you, smash that subscribe button for more. That night, alone in our suburban home, I sat with the laptop open and dug deeper into those logs. The timestamps lined up exactly with nights I had already gone to bed. The IP address pointed straight back to our router. Small edits appeared on client files, numbers swapped, bullet points moved, tone softened just enough to make my work look rushed. No big errors, nothing obvious enough for anyone else to notice, but enough to chip away at my reputation. Someone had been inside my account while I slept. My mind drifted back 12 years, to the day David and I first clicked at the agency. Fresh out of college, we bonded over late-night revisions and cheap coffee from the break room. He was the calm one who remembered my sister's birthday and brought my favorite takeout after brutal pitches. When the agency expanded into the research triangle, we bought this house together, promising to build something solid. We put off kids because deadlines always came first. It felt like the smart choice then. For a long time, he cheered every win. But after I was promoted to senior account manager last year, the cheers grew quieter. He started volunteering to sit in on my calls, just to help. At the time, I felt lucky. Now, staring at the access history, that help felt planned. I shut the laptop and walked into the kitchen, drawn to the cabinet above the sink he always guarded. Inside stood a row of plain white bottles, no pharmacy labels, just handwritten dates on the caps. Every morning for months he had poured one into a glass and slid it across the counter. "For your health," he would say, voice soft, eyes steady. "You're carrying too much." I twisted open the nearest one. The powder smelled faintly metallic under the artificial berry scent. My throat tightened. The same forgetfulness that had cost me 2 client follow-ups, the headaches that blurred my screen at 3 in the afternoon, the way my mind sometimes went blank mid-meeting, all of it suddenly matched the quiet changes I had blamed on stress. I stood there holding the bottle, heart thudding against my ribs. Part of me wanted to laugh it off, to convince myself these were just overpriced vitamins he had ordered online. Another part whispered that coincidences don't line up this perfectly. I poured a tiny sample into a plastic bag, sealed it, and tucked the bottle back exactly where I found it. The house felt different now, the familiar walls suddenly watchful. I rinsed the glass, wiped the counter, and went upstairs like any other night. David was already asleep, breathing steady, face peaceful. I lay beside him, eyes wide in the dark, running through every gentle suggestion he had made over the past year. None of it felt gentle anymore. I still had no proof, only questions stacking higher than the files he had quietly altered. But the first crack had formed, and I knew it would keep spreading. The next morning I woke before the alarm, the house still quiet except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. David had already left for an early meeting, so I had the place to myself. I went straight to his office nook in the corner of the living room, the one spot he claimed as his own. The drawer where he kept old cables and chargers looked untouched, but I knew better now. I slid it open carefully. Behind a stack of outdated business cards sat the tablet he had sworn he lost 6 months ago. The screen lit up on our wedding date, predictable, almost mocking. I scrolled through the browser history first. Nothing obvious. Then I opened the email app. Buried in a folder labeled Old Projects were drafts he had never sent. One caught my eye immediately. Dear James, in the event Ava needs extended time off due to ongoing fatigue and performance concerns, I'm prepared to step in and lead the Thompson campaign. I've been closely involved and can ensure continuity. Best, David Lang. My stomach turned. The Thompson account was the biggest one I had landed last quarter. The reason James Brooks had pulled me aside at the last team offsite and said, "You're carrying this agency right now." David had been in the room that day, standing off to the side, smiling too tightly. I remembered thinking he looked tired. Now I saw resentment. I kept scrolling. In the sent items, a chain of messages to an address I didn't recognize. c.foster@agencyinternal.net. Christopher Foster, our IT admin, the quiet guy who fixed printers and reset passwords without fanfare. The exchanges were short, coded almost, files updated as discussed, logs cleared. She won't notice until the client review. Make sure the changes look organic. No red flags in audit. Window opening next quarter. Keep her off balance. I copied everything to a hidden folder on my phone, hand steady even though my pulse hammered in my ears. This wasn't random. This was coordinated. I closed the tablet, put it back exactly as I found it, and sat at the kitchen table for a long minute. The supplements bottle from last night still sat in my mind like a weight. I needed someone else to see this before I convinced myself I was imagining things. Victoria Reed worked in compliance at the agency. She handled internal audits and knew the systems better than most. We had grabbed lunch a few times, talked about work-life balance or the lack of it. She was straightforward, not the type to gossip. I texted her, "Hey, got a weird question about system access logs. Can we talk off the record? Coffee after lunch?" "Coffee." Her reply came fast. "Sure. Everything okay?" "Not really." I typed back. "Meet at the spot near the park?" We met at the small coffee place 2 blocks from the office, the one with outdoor tables shaded by oaks. Victoria arrived in her usual blazer, hair pulled back, looking curious but calm. I showed her the screenshots first, the log entries, the IP match, the timestamps. She frowned as she scrolled. "This is from your account?" "Yes. And the edits happened when I was home asleep." She handed the phone back. "Ava, this could just be a glitch. Or someone testing permissions. You've been under a lot of pressure lately. Maybe it's burnout making you see patterns." I pulled up the email draft next. Her expression changed when she read it. "Okay," she said slowly. "That's not nothing. But it's still circumstantial. People vent in drafts all the time." I took a breath. "There's more. He's been giving me these supplements every morning. I found them hidden. They make me foggy, forgetful exactly when these mistakes started showing up in my work." Victoria leaned forward. "You think he's, what? Drugging you to sabotage your performance? I don't know what to call it yet. But I need to know if I'm losing my mind or if this is real." She studied me for a long moment. "Send me the log screenshots. I can run a quiet check on access history from the compliance side. No alerts, no flags. If there's something off with Christopher's permissions, I'll see it." Relief hit me hard. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," she said. "If this turns out to be real, we're talking serious policy violations. Maybe worse. Just don't confront him until we have more." I nodded. We finished our coffee in near silence after that. When I got home that afternoon, the house felt colder than it should have in the North Carolina heat. I locked the door behind me and started thinking about the next step. Over the weekend, I stayed late at the office, telling David I had a client deadline that couldn't wait. The building was quiet after 6, just the low buzz of the HVAC and the occasional ping from someone's forgotten computer. I logged in from my desk with admin-level access I had requested months ago for campaign tracking access David never knew about. I pulled up the full audit trail for the last 3 months. The pattern was clearer now. Subtle shifts in client spreadsheets, word choices in proposals softened to sound less confident, attachment versions overwritten with older files that made my recommendations look outdated. Every change traced back to Christopher Foster's admin credentials, routed through a VPN that resolved to our home address at odd hours. One entry showed a file rename at 2:17 a.m. on a Tuesday when I had been in bed with a headache that kept me from sleeping. Another logged a client email draft sent from my account to a competitor's contact deleted immediately after. But the log didn't lie. I cross-referenced the timestamps with my calendar. The biggest errors lined up with mornings after I had taken the supplements. The fog I felt wasn't just exhaustion. It was timed perfectly to when the files needed to look sloppy. I saved the entire audit export to an encrypted drive, then wiped my browser history on the office machine. My thoughts drifted to the company retreat last spring at the golf course outside Raleigh. James Brooks had stood at the podium, glass raised. This year we landed our largest contract thanks to Ava's leadership on the Thompson pitch. She's the reason we're ahead of target. Applause rippled through the room. David sat 2 tables away, clapping politely, but his smile never reached his eyes. Later that night, when everyone was toasting, I caught him staring at the floor, jaw tight. Someone joked, "David, you must be proud." He forced a laugh and said, "Absolutely. She earned it." But the tone was flat. I brushed it off as him being worn out from travel. Now I realized that was the moment the switch flipped. He saw me pulling ahead, and something in him decided I couldn't stay there. Back at the house that Sunday evening, I pretended to review notes on the couch while David cooked dinner. He set a plate in front of me, casual as ever. "You look wiped. Did the deadline go okay?" "Yeah," I said, forcing a small smile. "Just glad it's done." He nodded. Sat across from me. "You should take a few days off after this one. Let me cover some of your follow-ups. I've got bandwidth." The offer sounded kind, but now every word carried weight. I poked at the food. "Maybe. We'll see." After he cleared the plates, I slipped into the bathroom and checked the plastic bag with the powder sample. I hadn't touched another dose since that first night. The headaches had already started to ease. My focus felt sharper. Confirmation in itself. I hid the bag deeper in my purse. Monday morning I arrived early, coffee in hand, and watched Christopher walk past my desk on his way to the server room. He gave the usual nod, polite, unreadable. I returned it, heart steady. He had no idea I was mapping every move he made. I spent the day acting normal, replying to emails, joining calls, laughing at the right moments in team chat. But inside, the pieces kept locking together. The supplements dulled me just enough to create openings. The file changes filled them with doubt. Together they painted a picture of someone too unreliable for the lead role. And David was ready to step into the frame. By the end of the day, my encrypted drive held everything. Logs, email drafts, timestamps, even a photo of the supplement bottles with dates visible. I still needed more, something undeniable before I moved. But the plan was forming. I wasn't running anymore. I was building the case. One quiet step at a time. Monday came and the office felt smaller than usual. I kept my routine tight, arrived early, answered every email promptly, joined every call with notes ready. David texted mid-morning. "Lunch together? I'll grab your usual from the deli." I replied yes, even added a smile emoji. Normal. Safe. At home that evening he was already in the kitchen when I walked in. He had the blender out, the same one he used every morning. He poured the familiar pale green mixture into 2 glasses, slid one toward me across the island. "Made your shake. Vitamins, protein, the works. You said it helps with focus." I looked at the glass. The color was the same, the faint berry scent drifting up. "Thanks," I said, picking it up but not drinking. "I'll have it later. Stomach's off from lunch." "Thanks for watching." He paused, spoon halfway to his mouth. "You sure? You've been skipping them lately." "Just not in the mood right now," I answered, setting the glass down untouched. "I'll finish it before bed." He shrugged, took a sip of his own plain water, as always, and changed the subject to a minor client update. I nodded along, watching his hands, the way his fingers tapped the counter once, twice, then stopped. He thought I was still taking them. The routine had become his safety net. Later, after he went to watch TV in the living room, I carried the glass to the sink. I poured most of it into a small sealed jar I had hidden in the pantry, labeled with the date. The rest went down the drain with a rinse of water to mask the smell. I wiped the glass clean, placed it in the dishwasher like any other night, No trace. The notebook came next. I waited until his breathing evened out on the couch, then slipped back into his office nook. The bottom drawer had a false panel. I had noticed the slight give last week. I pried it up gently. Underneath lay a slim black notebook, edges worn, pages filled with his neat handwriting. Dates ran down the left column. Next to each, notes like dosage steady. Fatigue reports up 30%. Client feedback mentions confusion on call target achieved. Increased subtle edits 2x this week. No audit flags. One entry from 2 weeks ago. Thompson review prep compromised. She'll defer to me naturally. Another. Christopher confirms log wipe successful. Proceed to phase 3. I photographed every page with my phone. Flash off. Then replaced the notebook exactly as I found it. The words stared back at me from the screen. Clinical. Detached. Like lab notes on an experiment. Not anger. Not love. Just calculation. I moved to the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and opened the encrypted folder on my laptop. Logs, screenshots, email drafts, photos of the bottles, now the notebook pages all timestamped, backed up to a secure cloud account he couldn't access. I added a quick audio note to myself. Monday, October supplement sample collected. Notebook documented. Pattern confirmed. This Losh. David stirred in the living room. I closed the laptop fast, heart kicking once. He wandered in, rubbing his eyes. You coming to bed soon? Yeah, I said, voice even. Just finishing some emails. He leaned against the doorframe. You've been working too hard. Let me take a couple of your smaller accounts this week. You need the break. I met his gaze. That's sweet, but I've got it under control. He smiled that same practice smile and turned back toward the couch. I waited until his footsteps faded, then exhaled slowly. The jar in the pantry, the photos on my phone, the folder growing heavier by the day. I wasn't guessing anymore. I was documenting. The next morning I left the house before he woke, coffee in hand, mind clear for the first time in months. Victoria had texted late last night. Got preliminary access report. We need to talk soon. I replied with one word. Soon. The net was tightening, and I was the one pulling the strings now. Late that night I met Victoria at the same coffee place near the park, the one that stayed open until 10. The outdoor tables were empty except for us. The streetlights cast long shadows across the sidewalk. She arrived first, laptop already open, a black folder beside her cup. I slid into the chair across from her and placed my phone face down. You said you ran the check? She nodded, voice low. I did. Quietly. No tickets raised, no alerts triggered. But the access logs don't lie. She turned the screen toward me. A filtered report showed Christopher Foster logging into my account 17 times in the last 90 days, always after midnight, always through a remote session routed through our home IP. He used his admin credentials to bypass standard tracking. That's not routine maintenance. That's targeted. I exhaled slowly. And the changes? Every edit matches what you showed me. File versions overwritten, metadata altered to look like you saved them. He wiped the audit trail each time, but the compliance backend keeps a shadow copy for 30 days. I pulled it. She tapped a highlighted line. See this? 3:42 a.m. Last Thursday. He renamed a client deck version 4.1 to 3.9, downgraded the progress indicators. The client flagged it the next day as incomplete. My hand stayed flat on the table. He's covering for David. Exactly. Victoria closed the laptop. I cross-checked Christopher's activity. Same nights. Same hours. They're coordinating. I also pulled a sample from the lab friend I mentioned, your powder. It's not just vitamins. Over-the-counter fatigue inducers, mixed with something that mimics mild cognitive fog. Nothing lethal, but consistent use would explain the memory slips, the delayed responses on calls. Legal gray area at best, but combined with the system tampering? That's fraud. Corporate sabotage. Possibly wire fraud if clients were misled. I pulled out my phone and opened the encrypted folder. I have more. Notebook pages, photos of the bottles, audio notes, the draft email to James about stepping in. She scanned them quickly. This is solid. Dates, patterns, direct links. But Ava, this is escalation territory. If we go to HR or James directly, it stays internal. If we go outside, it's police. Computer fraud under CFAA, potential conspiracy charges. They could face years. I know, I said. I'm not bluffing anymore. Victoria studied me. You're sure? Once this leaves this table, there's no walking it back. David will know it came from you. Christopher, too. I've been sleeping next to the man who's been dismantling my career for months. I'm past sure. She nodded once. Then we do it right. I'll compile an anonymous tip packet from compliance logs, access reports, no names attached yet. You add your personal evidence. We send it to the police non-emergency line tomorrow. They'll want to interview us separately. I'll back you as a witness who saw the patterns independently. We sat in silence for a minute, the night air cool against my skin. Victoria reached across the table and squeezed my wrist briefly. I thought you were stressed at first. I'm sorry I doubted you. Don't be, I told her. I doubted myself longer. We parted ways at the parking lot. I drove home with the windows down, the Raleigh streets quiet except for the occasional car passing. David was asleep when I slipped in. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom for a long moment, watching his chest rise and fall. No anger surged up, just cold clarity. The man I married had become a stranger who measured my worth in client wins he wanted for himself. I changed quietly, slid under the covers, and set my alarm for 5. Tomorrow I would finalize the packet. Tomorrow the line would be crossed. No more pretending. No more waiting for him to make the next move. The notebook photos glowed faintly on my phone screen when I checked one last time before sleep. Every entry was another nail. Every timestamp another proof. I closed my eyes, mind racing but steady. The endgame had started. And for the first time in months, I wasn't the one being played. A week later, the folder was complete. I had everything organized in a single encrypted drive. The full audit logs Victoria pulled, my personal screenshots of the notebook pages, dated photos of the supplement bottles and jars, the email drafts David never sent, audio notes I recorded in the car, even a timeline chart I built myself mapping the fatigue symptoms to the file sabotage dates. No emotion in the file, just facts, timestamps, evidence. I drove to the Raleigh Police Department non-emergency entrance in the middle of the afternoon, parked in the visitor lot, and walked in with the drive in my purse. The desk sergeant looked up when I approached. I need to speak with someone about computer fraud and possible conspiracy, I said, voice level. I have documentation. It involves my husband and a coworker at my company. He nodded without surprise. Raleigh sees its share of corporate disputes and directed me to a small interview room. Detective Ramirez arrived 10 minutes later, mid-40s, calm eyes, notepad ready. I handed over the drive and talked for almost 2 hours. I started with the supplements, how David insisted on them every morning, how I stopped taking them weeks ago and the fog lifted. Then the work changes, clients shifting to him, files altered, logs pointing to our home. I showed the notebook photos, his handwriting documenting, fatigue reports up, phase 3. Window opening. I played the audio notes where I described finding the hidden bottles. Finally, the access reports from Victoria, who had agreed to come in separately as a witness. Ramirez listened without interrupting, flipping through printed screenshots. This is detailed, he said when I finished. We'll need to verify chain of custody on the physical samples and run the digital evidence through forensics. If the logs hold and the substance analysis confirms intentional administration to impair performance, we're looking at computer fraud and wire fraud under federal statutes, plus potential state charges for conspiracy to defraud. Your husband and the IT admin could face felony counts. He asked for contact information for Victoria and James Brooks. We'll subpoena company records. Don't discuss this with anyone at work yet, not even your boss. And stay out of confrontations at home. We'll move fast but quietly. I left the station around dusk, the sky turning orange over the Research Triangle skyline. Back home, David was in the kitchen, stirring something on the stove. He turned when I walked in. Long day? He asked, casual. Productive, I said. I set my bag down and met his eyes directly. We need to talk. He wiped his hands on a towel, smile fading a fraction. Okay. What's up? I pulled out my phone and opened the photo of the notebook page, the one that read increased subtle edits 2x this week. She'll defer to me naturally. I held it up so he could see. His face went still. Where did you get that? From your drawer. The one with the false bottom. He stared at the screen, then at me. Ava. That's not. Don't. I cut in. The logs, the access trails. Christopher's sessions from our IP, the supplements you've been giving me for months. I stopped taking them. I feel fine now. The police have everything. He took a step back. Hands raised slightly. You went to the police? Over some supplements and work files? That's insane. I was trying to help you. You were burning out, forgetting things. Stop, I said. I have the dates. The patterns. Your notes. You documented it like a project plan. You wanted me out of the way so you could take the lead spots. You and Christopher rigged it. His jaw worked. You don't understand the pressure. You got the promotion, the praise, everything. I built half those accounts with you. No one saw me. I just wanted balance. Balance, I repeated. By making me look incompetent. By drugging me to forget. That's not balance. That's control. He reached for my arm. I stepped back. Don't touch me. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. The house is in both names. But I'm not staying here tonight. He looked around the kitchen like he was seeing it for the first time. You're throwing away 12 years over this? I'm saving what's left of my life, I said. Pack what you need. I'll be at a hotel. The police will contact you soon. I grabbed my overnight bag from the closet already packed since the station and walked out. The door closed behind me with a soft click. No yelling. No tears. Just the sound of the lock turning. In the car I drove to the nearest chain hotel, checked in, and sat on the bed staring at the wall. The weight that had pressed on my chest for months finally lifted, not gone, but lighter. Tomorrow the process would start. Legal, formal, final. The trial dragged on for 6 months. Raleigh's court system moved slowly, but the evidence moved faster. Detective Ramirez's team subpoenaed the agency's full server logs, pulled Christopher's workstation hard drive, and sent the supplement samples to the state lab. The results came back consistent. A blend of over-the-counter compounds known to cause prolonged fatigue, mild cognitive impairment, and memory disruption when taken daily. No prescription, no medical oversight, just intentional use to degrade performance. Combined with the digital tampering, prosecutors built a case for computer fraud under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, wire fraud for misleading clients via altered communications, and conspiracy to commit both. David and Christopher were arrested within days of my report. They took them separately, David at home one evening while I was still at the hotel, Christopher at the office during lunch hour. The agency went into immediate lockdown mode, internal investigation, mandatory compliance training, and both men's access revoked before the news even hit local outlets. James Brooks called me personally the next day. We're cooperating fully, he said. And Ava, when this settles, we want you back leading the team. No question. I filed for divorce the week after the arrests. The paperwork was straightforward, irreconcilable differences. No kids. Assets split evenly on paper, but I kept the house since I had paid most of the mortgage. David fought the division at first, claiming the supplements were wellness support and the file changes were collaborative edits gone wrong. His lawyer tried to paint me as paranoid, overworked, projecting stress onto him. But the notebook in his handwriting, the logs, the lab report, and Victoria's sworn statement as a compliance witness dismantled every defense. In court, David took the stand near the end. He started calm, explaining how hard he had worked behind the scenes, how my promotion had left him invisible. Then the prosecutor read from the notebook. Fatigue reports up 30%. Client confusion achieved. Proceed to phase 3. David's composure cracked. I didn't want to hurt her, he said, voice rising. I just needed space to prove myself. She took everything, the spotlight, the credit. I was trying to level the field, not destroy her. The judge didn't interrupt. The jury didn't look sympathetic. Christopher stayed mostly silent, pleading no contest on the fraud counts. His role was clear. He provided the technical access, wiped trails, and coordinated timing. Sentencing came 3 months later. David received 3 years in federal prison for wire fraud and conspiracy, plus 2 years probation after release, ordered to pay restitution to the agency for investigation costs, over $75,000. Christopher got 4 years, same charges, heavier because of the breach of IT trust. Both were barred from tech or corporate roles involving data access for 10 years. The agency scrubbed their names from every project archive, website, and old press release. I didn't attend the sentencing. I was already back at work, promoted to Director of Client Strategy. The Thompson account stayed mine, expanded with 2 new extensions. Clients who had drifted during the sabotage returned once the facts came out. Some even sent notes of support. Victoria and I stayed close. She got a quiet commendation for her role in the internal review. The house in Raleigh felt different after David left. I repainted the kitchen, replaced the blender, turned his office nook into a reading corner. No more cabinets I wasn't allowed to touch. No more morning routines that left me foggy. I started running again, early before the sun rose over the triangle, the air crisp and clean. Looking back, the betrayal cut deepest not because of the sabotage, but because I had trusted without verifying. I had let love blind me to the patterns right in front of me. Now I check everything: contracts, logs, intentions. Not out of paranoia, but out of respect for what I built. Life came back in small things. Coffee that tasted sharp again. Meetings where my voice carried without second-guessing. Quiet evenings alone that felt like freedom instead of emptiness. I didn't become bitter. I became careful. And careful people survive. What do you think? Would you have spotted the signs sooner? Or trusted the person closest to you longer? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. If this story hit home, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. More real stories like this coming soon.